Okay, welcome to the first video lecture of the semester and of my career in Linguistics 411, phonology. This lecture is going to be a little bit about what is this class about? What are the topics of the class? So I'm going to go briefly through each of the major kinds of areas that we'll be studying this semester and trying to give you some background about what kinds of things we'll be looking at. Before we do that, though, an important question. How dedicated is Professor Katz to making the semester work? Well, I have painted a chalkboard on the wall of my home, and that's how dedicated I am to the semester. So I'm going to try out this video. I've got the lighting as good as I can get it in here. It might be kind of hard to see what's going on with the chalkboard. I'm going to try it out for this class and see how it works. And if it needs revision, I will figure something out. Okay, so the first part of this, and I'm working with my handout here. I use paper handouts in this class for the most part. They're all up on the website as PDFs. You can print them out. You can read them on a computer. It doesn't really matter. But you should have the handout with you when you're trying to follow the lecture. And I'm now in section 1 of this bird's eye view of phonetics and phonology handout, where I'm talking about the speech chain. So what is the speech chain? Well, when a human speaks and is understood by another speaker, in order for that to happen, a chain of events must occur. And so each link in this chain is going to be a part of phonetics, which is the study of human speech and how it relates to grammar, right? So we're going to start this class with some phonetics, and there's a couple different distinctions we make in phonetics between different kinds of objects and phenomena. So on the left here is my ridiculous rendering of a human head and a human vocal tract. This is about as good as I can do. If you want to see what a real one looks like, there's an MRI image on the handout. But basically this is meant to be neck, which apparently this is an ostrich or something. You can ignore the lower part. And yeah, there's a structure inside your throat that's referred to as your larynx or your glottis. And this is the first important object that air hits when it's coming up from your lungs that's involved in speech. This is sort of the beginning of speech sounds. And then up here is just empty space. There's this giant muscle, which is referred to as a tongue. That's going to be super important. There's the roof of your mouth here. There's your lips and your teeth and your nasal cavity up here. These are all going to be involved in speech sounds. And so you're going to be moving around various parts of this vocal tract in order to make different kinds of sounds come out. And how you control your vocal tract, the structure of the vocal tract and what you do with it to make speech sounds is referred to as articulatory phonetics, because it studies the articulation of speech sounds in the vocal tract. Okay, so that's going to be part 1. What happens when you move these bits of your anatomy around and you speak? Well, usually either through your nose or your mouth or even through your skin and your face, what you end up with is basically waves of pressure coming out of your face and into the air, right? What are waves of pressure? Well, basically, there are periods where the air gets more compressed and less compressed, more dense and less dense, and on and on and on and on forever. And that is essentially what sound is, right? It is just a disturbance in air pressure, a fluctuation in air pressure, and that's what you're doing when you speak. You are disturbing the air, notably in front of your mouth, right? But also maybe through your nose, maybe a little bit through your cheeks and things like that, mostly through your mouth. You're changing the air pressure around you in ways that create characteristic waves of pressure or particle density. So you can think about this as waves of density, waves of velocity. We'll go through this later in class. But this is the second major component of phonetics. It's referred to as acoustic phonetics, and we're going to study that a bit this semester as well. We're going to all work with some software that allows you to visualize the waves that come out of somebody's mouth and do acoustic analysis on them. So that's acoustic phonetics. And then the third super important thing that has to happen here is that if these air waves, they're bouncing out in all directions, if they happen to hit somebody's ear, well, then other people can hear them. They sense these airwaves through their ear, through a very complex mechanism. We're not going to talk quite as much. By the way, this is my other drawing of a human head. I didn't even try to get the ear right. I just put a bunch of lines inside a circle. I don't know how to draw an ear. It's complicated. You can see the outer and the inner ear in the illustration on your handout, but this is just my ridiculous attempt. The point is, you sense sound through your ears. That eventually goes to your brain and becomes a signal that you can interpret, right? So part of phonetics is also studying how people perceive speech through their ears and their brains, right? That's referred to as, naturally, speech perception, and it's a third part of phonetics. We're going to look a little bit at speech perception in here, but not quite as much as the other two. So that's going to be the first section of the class, right? We're going to learn a little bit about each of these sub-disciplines, and of course each of them could be an entire semester on its own, but we're just going to spend a little time on each in order to get you ready for the phonology part of the class. So that is the first chunk of the handout.